How did you get your nickname, Satch?
Okay, well, I used to play baseball.
Yeah.
And baseball was my first love. I thought I was going to be a pitcher, Satchel Paige, a black pitcher that was pitching for the Yankees and the Browns in those days. He was a legend. And I wanted to be like Satchel Paige. And when I started playing a lot of basketball, the nickname stayed. So they shortened it to Satch instead of Satchel. That's it.
So what made you inspired to play basketball?
I guess I can't say it was inspiration so much as it was just that's what the guys were doing.
Yeah.
Okay? When the guys are doing something, you want to go along with the gang. So they were all playing ball. It just so happens that I was sort of behind in terms of skills. And so they used to laugh at me all the time. So that was the motivation. I said, okay, I can't wait to get better because I'm going to be able to kick some buns if I can get better because I had the height already. And I kept working. But the motivation really was all personal, to stop the guys from laughing.
Do you have a quote or anything you live by that helped you along the way?
No, I don't really have a quote that sort of helps me. It was a personal thing where I kept saying, if he can do it, I can do it. That was the only thing that I kept saying. So some of the players who were better, I always thought I could play at least as good as they can and perhaps be better. Now that hurt me when I ran into a player from Indiana. They told me that he was so much better than I was. And I said, hey, I want to see this. I want to play against him. And Oscar Robertson came into New York to play some games, some pickup games. And Oscar, I had never seen a player as good as the Big O. I mean, he was really special. And kicked my behind inside out, okay? That's when I learned a real good lesson that I was, no matter how I felt about it, I wasn't going to be able to always be able to be as good as I wanted to be. And certainly I won't be able to be as good as some of the other guys are. So it was a good lesson for me. Didn't stop me from working, trying to be better than anybody else, but it was a good lesson.
So, as you started off, did you struggle in anything when you started basketball? What was your biggest struggle when you played?
The biggest struggle I had with basketball was just learning the rhythm of the game. I had a coach, Coach Hartman, in junior high school, who knew I didn't know much about the game. So he would put me in the games when either we were way ahead or way behind. And he'd always say, Tommy, I want you to run up the side of the court. I don't want you to get out into the middle where all the real players are. So there'd be 10 of us out there on the court. The guys would be playing ball, running up and down. And I would just run up depending on the rhythm. They'd run down this way, then they'd turn around and come back this way, and I would just run so I can get a feel of what it was like to play, how the game was being run, what was going on out there. But I couldn't touch the ball. I couldn't get involved until after about half a year of running up and down the side with all the guys pointing and laughing at me. Because, the coach was calling me, Tommy, yep, you're too close. Stay on the sides, and the guys would just go crazy. The guys who could play would just laugh to death. They didn't laugh long later on.
Yeah. What chose you to go to NYU?
I thought I had a scholarship to go to Duquesne University, and they sort of de-emphasized basketball at that point. The coach was a fellow named Duty Moore, who was a very nice man. He was going on to Alabama to become the head coach there for basketball. This was 1955, and he said, Satch, why don't you come to Alabama with me? There weren't any black players. No place in the South, not at the major schools. So I said, I don't have the brass ones to make that kind of move, to try and be the first black to play in the Deep South. So I told him no. NYU came along because there was a friend of mine playing at New York University. Cal Ramsey was his name. And he asked me to come to NYU and play with him. He was a year ahead of me, and I said, definitely, because I needed a scholarship to go to school, and that was the only other offer that was on the table. So I took it. NYU became the school.
So everyone's who goes to college basketball, they're like their dreams to get drafted into the NBA. How did that feel to get drafted?
Yeah, well, as much as I like basketball, you have to see the times. The times were different. I'm a kid of the 50s. I'm playing basketball. There, just a few years before that, the first couple of blacks got into the league. So it wasn't like it was wide open, I'd have a shot. So the name of the game was to play as I best could and try and get a job out of it. And that's what I wanted. NYU, we went to the Final Four. And when we finished, I was thinking in terms of working for a company called Tapers. The Tapers is what they call themselves down in, I think, Yonkers. Okay? And all I wanted was a job. What they did was they taught you how to operate in a corporate environment, but also that you played ball for the corporation on the weekends. So that would have been great for me. Turns out the Celtics drafted me first. And I told Auerbach, the coach at that time, coaching GM, I told him that I was not interested in playing pro ball. I said, I don't know where the guys get the best chance in pro ball. I'm interested in playing with the Tapers. I can't tell you the kind of words he used, but he didn't think too much of my decision, okay? And my mother came across, she said, you ought to try the Celtics. She said, because a job, you can always get. Everybody's got to get a job, she said. But everybody won't get a chance to play for the Celtics, so I listened to him.
As a rookie, was it difficult and to adjust to the league, the game, the intensity of the players?
It was different, particularly because when you're playing college ball and other levels, you run across one or two outstanding players on each team. Suddenly you step in the pros, and all of the players were either all-stars, they kicked a lot of butt when they were in college or high school, whatever. A lot of superb talents there. Now you got to find a way to measure up. Now you start finding out just what you're really about. When I came to the Celtics, they had a player by the name of Jim Musketoff. Jim was about 6'5", 240 pounds. He was coming back from back surgery. Now remember what we're talking about. We're talking about 1960s. In the 60s, of course, they were, sorry about that.
Don't worry.
In the 60s, they were, you didn't come back from any major surgery, okay? Jim Musketoff was coming back to the Celtics after a disc operation. And normally speaking, anytime you had a serious operation, the teams just dropped him automatically. So he's a very, very tough guy. That was his role. And what he saw in me was a challenge to his comeback. So we had a lot of fisticuffs, a lot of wrestling, a lot of differences of opinion on the court. He was a big, strong guy, and the few times I got hit by him were difficult times. However, I was a lot quicker than he was and able to hold my own with Jim. Musketoff was a heck of a guy and a heck of a ball player. So both of us made the Celtics team, and hey, it worked out well for us.
What advice do you have for the young players now entering the league?
Young players need to, one of the problems you have with young players, they all want to play. They all want to participate. They all want to get playing time. What they don't have are the skills to help teams win. And they have to learn how to win. Now it's up to the coaches who many times, far too many times, are just not getting the job done in terms of young players learning how to help teams win. And the problem coaches are having is the whole environment of a lot of parents get involved. They think their kids have a tremendous amount of talent, and they want the coaches to play their kids no matter what the kids can do. Problem. Coaches need to really bear down, put up with the outside pressure, and find a way to teach the kids how to win. If you're fortunate enough to get a Shaquille O'Neal at 15 years of age, who's maybe 6'10", 6'11", and about 275 pounds, you have a habit of knowing that you can win just about every game. And so you just have the guy stolen the ball, he gets it, just tramples a few people and throws it down. That's great for the school record, great for the team's record. But he's not learning very much. So fortunately, in Shaquille's case, he had a coach that helped him learn about passing, about doing a lot of other things. Didn't get to him on those free throws, okay? He always had a problem there. But he learned a lot about playing basketball. And it's important that you just don't take advantage of a kid's physical talent out there. You sort of add to it and teach them something they don't know. A lot of the players need to concentrate on the fundamentals. I see a lot of kids working it, going between their legs behind their back, trying to play like Curry, the young man from Golden State. Curry spent a lot of years doing that. His father, his brothers. I mean, that's a lot of practice time. The issue is that kids are trying that in high school, and they won't be able to concentrate or focus on the shot that they need to learn how to make while they're so busy going through the legs and creating magic and style. But they're going to have to learn the hard way when they get cut.
Who was your favorite teammate throughout your career?
Don't really have a favorite. I liked all the guys, and that's one of the things that helped us. We were successful, we won a lot of championships, and the team sort of stayed together because the coach he didn't trade people, not when we were having that kind of success. So I had Sam Jones as my roommate for about 5 years. Then John Havlicek became my roommate for about 5, 6 years. And, I got along with roommates and got along with everybody on the team, mainly because we were winning. And when you're winning, everything is beautiful. We didn't get a taste of what it's like to get our butts kicked and start pointing fingers at each other saying it must be his fault. If he had done his job, if he had gotten those rebounds, if he had passed the ball to me. You didn't get a chance to go through those kind of things. The other reason why we didn't have those kinds of problems is because you had a strong coach in our back who basically told you what you were going to do. The fact that I was a pretty good offensive player in college, he didn't pay much attention to that. He wanted me to play defense and to rebound for him. I said, yeah, I can score too. And he said, that's nice. But if you're on this Celtic team, here's what you're going to do. And if you want to stay on the Celtic team, then this is what you're going to do. So my choices were limited.
So what was it like to play with some of the greatest Celtics, like Cousy, Russell, Heinsohn?
All the guys are very special. I had seen Heinsohn and Cousy play, Heinsohn and Russell play in college in '56. In '56, when I was going into college and beginning to play, they were already dominating the college scene. Heinsohn with Holy Cross, of course, and Russell with San Francisco. And I saw them play against each other in Madison Square Garden. In '60, of course, I was drafted and had a chance to play with them, with both of them at pro level. But they were really hard competitors. And that's what you learn about guys. The expectations. The expectation that if there's a loose ball, we're supposed to get it. Sometimes you hear pundits and people using terms like 50-50 ball. It doesn't mean anything. If you're on the court, it's not 50-50. It's your ball, okay? And you learn that, for example, watching guys like Dave Cowens over the years. Any ball that went down the ground, if he was near, it was his. And after a while, players understood that, the opponents understood that, and they would look at it, see a loose ball, but if they saw him coming, they'd get out of the way because they knew that this guy was coming for the ball and would take them out also. So those kind of reputations of ball players you like, those kind of guys you want to play with, and those kind of guys we had on the team.
So who's like the toughest player you ever played against guarding you?
The toughest player in terms of ability to play well was Elgin Baylor. He's the gentleman who played with the Los Angeles Lakers. He and Jerry West were the very important players for their team. And we played them about 4 or 5 times for the championships, at least 4 or 5 times. And they were really special. Elgin was about 6'6", about 230 pounds. He was gifted with an outside shot. I mean, he could just do it all. I remember seeing him in college, and we were really impressed with him. He went up for a rebound, I remember, against UConn. At that time, UConn would play a very physical game, and they didn't have a lot of outside shooting and scoring in those years. And he went up and got a rebound and hit the rim, tore his arm a little bit. They brought him off the court to stitch it up. He had hit his rim, he hit the bottom of his arm here on the rim. We were standing there, young guys in college, but glad we weren't playing against a guy who could go that high and be that strong and in control. 3 years later, I was playing against him for a living. He was always an impressive player and a nice man. Well, sometimes he was a little hard. He hit a little hard, but he was tough and a nice man.
So what was the hardest game you ever played in the NBA?
I can't remember a specific game. Every game for me was tough because I never developed the kind of confidence that told me that I was going to be something special in this particular game. I was always a seeing is believing kind of player. If I got out there and I got down and I could be better than Brent, then I knew I was getting the job done, okay? If I could keep you from getting the ball where you need it, I could keep you off the boards, I could drive around you at will. As the game unfolded, I began to feel good and the confidence would build up. But so every game was tough for me. I approached every game the same way. Satch, you know how you're gonna play? No, but I know that Brent, for example, who's playing you guys, I know that Brent's gonna try and stop me. I'm gonna kick his butt. And of course, Brent's probably looking in the mirror at himself saying, this guy Satch, I'm gonna trample his ass. And so when we get out there and start going against each other, then we start finding out how the game is really going to unfold. But every game was the same approach for me.
So did you have a greater strength in the game? When, like, scoring, like, in the NBA level, scoring, rebounding, passing, defending?
Did I have what was the original question?
Your greatest strength in the game?
Oh, my greatest strength, yeah. Just rebounding and trying to play defense. Trying to make the man I was playing against not as effective as he would normally be in other games. Keeping him below his average, keeping him from taking advantage of situations out there. For me, basketball is very, it's very personal. Yeah, everybody wants to play on the team. Everybody wants to think that they're a teammate. But it doesn't mean anything unless you can really contribute to the team. And I wanted to make sure my contributions were always the best I could make them and on a high level. Some days it meant that I was going to end up with 4 or 6 points and a lot of hustle, scars, or blemishes, or call them what you want. Some days it was going to be 15 points and maybe 10 rebounds, and et cetera. So my game fluctuated, and it fluctuated a lot because of who I was playing against.
So, who was your favorite coach you ever had?
Well, I had some outstanding coaches. I certainly had one in Auerbach. And I certainly had, and Russell was a good coach. He was a better coach than a lot of people give him credit. But it just so happened that Russell was also the best player he had on the team. So when he was able to motivate himself, he was going to do well. So Auerbach and Russell were truly outstanding coaches. Heinzen came along and learned the coaching game the hard way, okay, without a Russell on his team. And we were able to do quite well and make the playoffs. The guy who really got the most out of me and got me to change my game and think more about it was a college coach by the name of Lou Rossini. He had coached at Columbia University, and he came to NYU for my last 2 years. And he's the one that got me involved with really focusing on defense and doing the other things on the court outside of scoring that would make a difference. And that's the kind of coach he was. And so I'd venture to say he was the best coach I had for me as an individual.
So as an NBA player, you had what, 8?
Yeah, I was on 8 championships and 8 championship teams. And the early part, the owners used to buy the rings. And then the league, the NBA league office took over. Because after a while, the owner was saying, hey, look, you guys are winning all the time. I'm not going to keep on buying diamond rings for you guys. So he gave us silver sets. Great for the wives, but didn't do much for me. But yeah, it was a good run. Good time to be a Celtic. When you say a player is underrated, that's because of the way the media and outside people see that player. Most teammates know how important players are to what they're doing on the court. The fact that they may not get a lot of pats on the back and the media doesn't want to interview them all the time doesn't say that he's a Hall of Famer and all that kind of crap. It's not, it's important to some guys who have an ego that needs to be fed. I'll buy that. But for most players, being considered underrated is only important if your teammates don't think you get the job done. Then you might be considered underrated because you haven't impressed them with the way you play.
What was the hardest part about the NBA?
One of the difficulties I had was the travel. In the days when I played, of course, we're talking about the jet travel did not truly exist. We only took jet planes, Boeing 707s from this coast to maybe California. All the other trips were propeller driven, which meant, you know, you were doing about 250 miles an hour, maybe 250, maybe 300 at max. And that sound, if you've ever looked at those World War II movies and instead of you hear that sound, the bombers, that's what you had in air travel during those years, until the airlines started purchasing jet planes for all the routes. Up until that point, the travel was difficult. The other part about the travel that hurt was we were in the business class, not business class, I'm sorry, the tourists were in back of the plane, which meant you had guys my height sitting in seats that were just extraordinarily tight, made for people that are 5'10", 5'8". And that was the setting. That's where you were sitting until you got to wherever you got to be. The Player Association, the union, stepped up and put some pressure on the teams, the league, and eventually players could ride in first class. That was about end of the 60s. But up until that point, travel was a real pain. My last year in the NBA, I felt I could really contribute, but I knew good and well I was not a 35, 40-minute man. That was clear. But I knew in certain circumstances I could still play to the top level of my game, and probably no more than really about 15, 20 minutes at most. And Heinsohn knew that, and he would just take me out of the games rather than leave me in or not start me in the first place. But my time was up. You know, you sort of know that you're not the same player. Your ego tells you, don't walk away. You know. But the reality is you can't do the same things.
What's your best memory as being a Celtic?
Just making the team. For me, the best memory would be making the Celtic team. That first year when, after working out against Luskatov and playing tough basketball and trying to carve out a spot on a team that had already won 3-4 championships already before I got there. So it was not like they were in need of a Satch. They were already a team that was together, taking care of business. So the best thing I could do was carve out a spot and add to it. But the need wasn't there. So when Auerbach said, you know, finally that I was going to make the team, that's when I felt the best. That was a good feeling.
Nowadays, like winning 3 championships or 4 is incredible. How does it feel to win 8?
No. See, those things are important in retrospect, but they're not as meaningful when you're getting it done. Clearly, the players have to answer the questions that the media guys put out there. Well, you guys have been won. Can you win again? You know, and so because the questions come in like that, the guys have a habit of answering in a silly fashion many times. But what it comes down to is you play the games as tough as you can to make the playoffs. Now you make the playoffs. Now everything is ramped up to another level, more physical. The game is more physical. It's tough to, everything changes. The level of play goes up. And so you've got to win every game, one game at a time. All that talk about championship doesn't become a big thing. Sometimes I listen to the interviews that they've got a kid like LeBron James talking about what it's going to be like to dominate. Are you looking forward to playing against Golden State? Hey, they got to struggle and get past whoever they're playing in the next round. And then they got to get past the next guy in the round. He's going to say the right thing because he's been doing this a long time. He's going to say what the media wants. But he's thinking basketball. How am I going to get past, if we play Toronto, how am I going to deal with DeRozan? He's 6'6" and tough and quick. You know, if I switch off on him, am I going to be able to drive him to help and create some problems? How is Love going to be? Is he going to be hitting that J, or can I count on the other guy? Is Irving going to be really ready to take care of business? I mean, all those things are running through your mind. Are you counting on playing against Golden State? Well, yeah, you'd like to get there, but they have to get there too. So it's a lot of conversation.
What made you start the RTP, the Rookie Transition Program? Explain a little.
Well, when I first, I think it was 86 when I started working with the NBA, 85, 86. I started working with them in trying to come up with a program that could help players make the adjustment coming into the NBA. Clearly, I knew a lot because I had come to the NBA, played 13 seasons, taken off from all the experience of the other guys, gave me a lot of knowledge, and I came up with a fair number of approaches to how we ought to help players. Now, I didn't do this by myself. I had, I counted on other players to help me, just the way you do with any team situation. Players had ideas about what could be done, should be done, what they didn't learn, what would have helped them play better pro ball, what would have helped them make the adjustment when they finished playing. And so you answered a lot of those questions. You came up with a lot of approaches, and then you found the people who could communicate and make those approaches work and help players, and make them better equipped to come into the pro game, but also to leave.
Explain your emotions on getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. What did that mean to you?
It was, the Hall of Fame is good, but as I said, first, the biggest thing for me was making the Celtics team. Nothing can touch that. All the stuff that occurs after that is other people seeing you and thinking that you ought to receive an award or you ought to be in the Hall of Fame. So the judgments are made by reporters, some that have seen you play, many that have never seen you play. The basketball pundits and people who know the game are people who have been selected to be on that committee. They come to a conclusion about you and you go into the Hall of Fame. As important as their opinion happens to be, it's important how people see you, their image of you, etc. All that stuff is highly important. But it always goes back to the playing. How were you when you were playing? How were you as a contributing teammate? Because those are the areas that got you to the place. So, I mean, when I started playing $8,000 a year. Most I ever made in pro ball was $45,000 a year. So it wasn't the kind of money that did not allow you to work. And so the issue was you got a chance to try a lot of things. So after I finished playing, I couldn't decide whether it was going to be real estate, whether it was going to be coaching, or what, or announcing games. I thought that I had a lot of choices. Okay, as it turns out, I started coaching at Harvard for 4 years. Turns out I was brought back to the Celtics to coach with Heinze. So I got more involved with basketball. I tried a few other things in real estate, things in restaurant business, a couple other things, printing business. But basketball just kept calling, you know. So with the NBA, and I had a chance to talk to the National Basketball Association, and I could create this program for them. It was the program, a facet of the program was the rookie program, rookie transition program. But the whole program was called Player Program Department, involved with everything that had anything to do with players. And that became my calling and worked well for me.
All right, well, thank you.
Okay. How am I doing time-wise?